Welcome to Animals Everywhere. I'm Elaine, your host. As you can see, it took a little trouble to get here. It took us 2 planes and 1 boat, and we're finally at our destination.
And this destination is a small wildlife rescue center on the side of the rainforest in Costa Rica. But like I said, getting to this little bit of heaven wasn't the easiest thing to do because they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Check out these tickets.
After arriving in San Jose, Costa Rica, we had to charter a plane that would take us to Puerto Jimenez. Of course, being that we're always thinking of Mother Nature, we use Nature Airlines because they're one of the few airlines in the world that have eco-friendly planes. Not to mention the fact that their planes look really cool. After we arrived in Puerto Jimenez, we met up with my good friend Danilo, or as I like to call him, Cha-Ching. Danilo's a tour guide for Crocodile Bay, which is a resort we always stay at, and he's one of the best tour guides in Costa Rica. And Crocodile Bay is also one of the best eco and fishing resorts around the world. Danilo showed me the resort's mascot. Well, actually, they have a few mascots, and they're all crocodiles. This little crocodile was taking a walk around the resort. Isn't he the cutest? But remember, never feed the wild animals, especially the ones with very, very sharp teeth. So to get to the rescue center, we had to take a half-hour boat ride. When we arrived and I got off the boat, I couldn't believe my eyes. To be up close and personal with monkeys and anteaters, not to mention sloths, it was unbelievable. Carol and Earl run the rescue center, and believe me when I say they have their hands full. They started off with 1 bird, and now they have a variety of different animals. I am so excited about this show today because we're going to be focusing on sloths. Now, for those of you who don't know what a sloth is, you're going to want to keep watching because by the end of this show, you're going to know everything there is to know about these amazing creatures.
Sloths are one of the slowest moving creatures on Earth.
They're so slow they grow moss on their back, but this helps them with camouflage.
What's the story with these guys here?
Kudo's mother was killed by a car in Zancudo, and we picked her up the next day. Rhonda here was found on the farm the night after a really bad rainstorm.
The hair on a sloth grows in a certain way that helps protect them from the rain.
So because of the way their hair grows, Rhonda being found on the ground is not a good thing during a rainstorm.
An interesting thing about these sloths is that most mammals, the hair grows from the back to the stomach. On a sloth, it grows from the stomach to the back. Do you see how it comes out of the stomach and onto the back? And then right here is like this little cowlick. This is their natural drain. So as they're hanging upside down, the water runs off their stomach and down their back. So the only time that they will really get drenched wet is on the ground, if they get caught on the ground in a downpour.
This is one of the reasons they don't spend hardly any time on the ground, because they could get really sick if they got drenched. But they do have to climb down out of the trees sometimes.
Sloths don't go to the bathroom from the trees like monkeys do. They actually have to climb all the way down before they go.
Oh, we are in the process as we speak.
Unless, of course, they're being held by me, the TV host of Animals Everywhere. Hey, I feel honored because they only go to the bathroom once or twice a week. And when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Well, while we're talking about defecation, I'll explain something to you.
Okay.
Their pellets are very hard and very dry.
Okay.
And the reason they are is because the only water that they get is from the leaves.
Right.
And so all that water is absorbed in their system and does not come out in their defecation. Of course it is.
Now that's good to know because it's better dry than wet. When Mother Nature calls, you must answer. Another thing that sets the sloths apart from other animals is their necks.
Their necks are specially designed so they can actually touch their head to their back. This way they can look from all angles.
Look at that neck. They have 3 extra vertebrae in their neck. so that as they're hanging upside down, their head can touch their back. This sloth has 5 extra vertebrae so that she can touch her head to her back. See how she's able to turn over.
Now, how cool would it be if we could touch our heads to our backs? Their necks are not the only unique things about them. Their wrists are also adapted so they could rotate them 180 degrees. Now that's cool.
Their wrists are also articulating so they can move on a tree 180 degrees both ways so they can get a full clear view of what's happening down below.
This adaptation helps the sloth move around without wasting any energy. They do have a low energy diet. All they eat are leaves. I know if I just ate salads, I wouldn't have any energy either. Now, besides those bendy necks and those wacky twisting wrists, take a look at those claws.
Their long arms and long claws help them hang from the trees. Oh, you got an itch?
No, she's just preening.
They also use those long claws to groom themselves, like you see this little baby three-toed sloth doing. Now, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Do they actually have fingers?
These claws are the adaptation of their fingers.
They don't just use their claws for grooming, they also use them for protection and to help gather food.
Two-toed and three-toed sloths are both vegetarians.
Now these fellows they're strictly herbivores. They live at the very top of the rainforest on the lianas.
Speaking of the tops of the rainforest, when we come back, Danello's taking us ziplining through the primary forest in search of the sloth in the wild. And later on in the show, you're going to experience what it's like to have lunch with a bunch of exotic animals. We'll be right back.
Coming kind of hard.
Danello wanted us to see the sloths in their natural habitat, so he took us to the primary rainforest. At first, I was wondering how are we going to see the sloths all the way up in the treetops? Because in the rainforest, the trees are a little bit bigger than what you see in your backyard. So Danello explained to me that we were going to use the zip lines. Now, for those of you who don't know what a zip line is, let me explain. It's a skinny little wire that you're going to hook onto with a really small hook. Then you go flying through the treetops in the air. And oh, I should also mention that most of the time you don't even see the ground. That's how high we are. Oh my God, don't look down. Thankfully, none of my camera crew or equipment had fallen. But at the same time, trying to get video while we're speeding through the air is almost impossible. A couple platforms we landed on, we saw monkeys, but no sloths. After a couple runs, I figured out why they call it the zip line. Because it sounds like a zipper. The scenery was amazing, and finally a sloth in the wild. It was really cool actually seeing the sloth in the wild, but I must admit, holding one is better. The funny thing is they knew we were there, but they didn't really care. They just ended up going back to sleep. But in their defense, they're nocturnal. During the day, they sleep, and at night, they move around for food, mating, and sometimes even to socialize. Sloths have been known to sleep up to 20 hours a day. Wow, I thought my dog was lazy. Speaking of socializing, the people in Costa Rica are very social. We met a lot of really friendly people in the village. Not to mention, we caught a great soccer game on the village green. Sloths were once mistaken to be useless disease-carrying creatures, but just like every other ignorant misunderstanding, people soon found out sloths were very beneficial to the rainforest, and they carry no diseases. They're just cute, compassionate, docile creatures. The Costa Rican people are trying to save as much of the rainforest as possible for the wildlife that inhabits it. The primary rainforest in Costa Rica is already protected. This definitely helps out the sloths.
Because they're vulnerable on the ground, they spend most of their time in the trees.
When they are up in the trees, the only predator that they have are eagles, because they're out on a limb that's very thin where no carnivores or snakes can crawl out to.
Okay. Because sloths are so light, they're actually easy targets for large birds of prey.
I know you're wondering how an eagle can take a sloth. Well, they're not as heavy as they look.
Don't let their size fool you, because this is mainly hair. They only weigh between 15 to 20 pounds.
It's when they come down the tree to defecate that they are vulnerable to everything. All carnivores and snakes at that point.
Sloths have an advantage over most animals because they have a great view from the treetops, and they know when their predators are not in the area, so they can come down from the trees when they need to. It's a good thing they're not afraid of heights.
Most other predators stay away from the sloth because they don't have a lot of meat on them.
They may be friendly, slow-moving creatures, but they're definitely able to defend themselves by slashing out at their enemies and inflicting deep wounds with those immense claws.
And they can swipe, and they swipe very quickly. They're a lot faster than what you realize they are.
Really?
And that also protects them from the eagles as the harpies come down to attack them. They can swipe at the eagle.
Okay.
The three-toed and two-toed sloth evolved from the large ground sloth that used to roam the earth about 9,000 to 12,000 years ago. The large ground sloth had no predators because it was carnivorous, and it was the hunter. And when I say it was a large ground sloth, I mean it was a large sloth.
It's 6 meters long and the size of an elephant. It was, as I said, ground sloth. It lived on the ground, and it was also the keystone predator of its time.
Sloths used to have tails, but through evolution, they've lost them. But they do have a little spur where they used to be.
The two-toed and three-toed sloths may look alike when you first meet them, and they seem to be very similar in personality, but they're not. They have a lot of differences.
The only thing that puts them in the same order is the fact that they have a vertebrae very ancient to the first mammals. And it has an extra spur in the vertebrae.
Right,
and this
so
is
three.
This is the only thing that keeps them together. Only the sloths, the anteater, and the armadillo have this antique spur.
So even though the two-toed and three-toed sloths look alike, they do have their differences.
The two-toed will eat bird eggs. This is strictly an herbivore.
Although the two-toed and three-toed sloths move really slow, the two-toed sloth actually moves faster.
The three-toed moves half the speed of the two-toed sloth. Now here comes the tongue twister. They have a few other differences, like their color, which is a true giveaway. The three-toed is a brownish, and the two-toed sloth is more of a yellowish gold. The three-toed sloth also has a short nub as a tail, and the two-toed sloth has no tail. The two-toed sloth has long, smooth pads on their hands, and the three-toed has no pads with hair. Both species have great hearing and eyesight, not to mention they have a keen sense of smell.
As you can see, he's smelling right now.
He is. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of a great sense of smell, I smell lunch. And when we come back from this quick break, you're going to experience what it's like to eat with Carol, Earl, the crew of Animals Everywhere, me, and oh yeah, a bunch of animals. We'll be right back. It looks delicious, doesn't it? But eating at the sanctuary is not the easiest thing to do because the animals join in. You really have to hold on to your food because the monkeys are not shy. And I did find out they love soda water. And the macaws like the pita bread, but then again, who doesn't? As this macaw enjoyed the pita bread, the other one decided to try the fruit. It's just a normal day of luncheon with the animals at the sanctuary.
Funny.
Like my cameraman Peter, after eating, the animals get food all over their fur.
Different hair.
Yeah, this is a little bit of puppy chow left over from last night's dinners.
Yeah. Is that what you feed them?
We feed them steamed carrots, chayote, which is a tropical squash, and softened puppy chow. We also give them some leaves. Every species of tree in the rainforest has evolved with a chemical or toxin for its own protection.
Oh, really?
And we do not know what that combination is.
Many of the combinations of these leaves can be deadly for the sloths, so they have to be real careful which leaves they eat.
It takes them a long time to digest their foods.
One of the reasons is they break down their food with bacteria. Unlike us, we break down our food with enzymes.
This is one reason we do carry the babies on around, because their intestines are so large and long that they need to move. Their mother would be moving with them, and that helps them go through the intestines.
Although there is one species of leaves they know are okay for them.
A tree that has evolved to house ants, and it has no chemicals in it. This is the Cecropia tree, and this is one of their main staples.
And this is a leaf from that
This is a leaf from that tree. As you can see, it's one of their favorite foods.
Sloths are taught at a young age by their mothers which leaves they can eat without taking in too many toxins. Because researchers don't know how to teach the young sloths which leaves they can and can't eat, they can't be released back into the wild. Like this baby sloth Carol just rescued. Isn't he the cutest thing you've ever seen?
Being a little spoiled.
Okay, many of you are wondering what's up with the teddy bear. Well, after I stopped laughing, I learned it's an enrichment program. It helps the baby to be able to grab a hold of something and move around. It's also so they don't miss their mothers as much.
They have one baby at a time, and they nurse for almost a year.
The sloth's gestation is between 4 to 6 months. Compared to our 9 months, that's not that bad. A newborn will be around 10 inches long and weigh about 12 ounces. Wow, that's a small baby. Although the adult sloths are often solitary creatures, the mothers and babies have very strong bonds with each other.
You can tell the difference between a male and female three-toed sloths by the line down the male's back.
This line is called the dorsal marking. It's located between their shoulders.
Three-toed sloths, we will know the sex when this baby's a little bit older. If she's female, she'll lose this.
Okay.
If he's male, this stripe will stay, and it'll become a little more yellow right here. Okay. They get like a little patch on the back of them. So when they're young, though, we don't know. And here at the sanctuary, if we don't know the sex, they're always girls.
They're always girls. Because girls are better, right?
Well, they're stronger. Yeah.
They're stronger.
Both the males and female sloths have internal genitals, or as I like to call them, innies. And they reach maturity at about 3 years of age, which means they become teenagers.
That's my term for it, by the way.
Yes, that's good.
They have innies or outies?
I was going to say you're going to have to explain that, but okay,
Yeah.
now it makes sense. Okay.
The most important thing I'm learning from Carol, Earl, and everyone else at the sanctuary is passion. They have such passion for learning and helping these animals in need, although I do know they're having fun doing it.
So out of something bad always comes something good, and these babies will be used as part of the conservation education course that we offered the local Costa Rican children. Yeah.
Carol and Earl have a lot of really cool animals here at the rescue center, but Carol wanted me to meet their kinkajou before we left. A kinkajou is in the raccoon family, and oh, by the way, they really are as soft as they look.
Their range is from southern Mexico to Brazil.
Okay.
They're never above 3,000 feet, which says they can't take the cold, and with this fur, you would think, they could take the heat. I mean, take the cold, but they can't. They are frugivores, but being in the raccoon family, they can be a little carnivorous.
Frugivore means they mainly eat fruit. Now take a look at that tongue. Wow, I know, I was totally amazed when I saw it too. That tongue actually serves a purpose. They use that really long tongue to get nectar.
They drink a lot of nectar, and they're great pollinators of the forest because, you know, putting their faces in the flowers to get the nectar, and then they spread it from tree to tree.
Their long tongue isn't the only cool thing about them. They also have a prehensile tail, which means they use it to hang from things, kind of like monkeys do. They also have paws that they use to grasp a hold of things like we do, although they don't have opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
They are, as I said, nocturnal, so I think their vision is fairly good.
Yeah.
Their sense of smell is good. I hope we have another cameraman.
Pete, you better be getting this.
He's getting it on the outside. This is great.
I have a funny feeling we're going to be doing a show on kinkajous in the near future, but I do know you're going to be seeing me playing with monkeys here in Costa Rica. We have so many species and not enough time. After our exciting, fun-filled day at the sanctuary was over, we took our boat ride back. The unique thing about Costa Rica is some of their rain clouds. You can actually drive around them or outrun them. After we docked, the ride through town back to our resort, Crocodile Bay, was amazing because the weather is always so nice at night. It gave us another chance to see how peaceful the people live in Costa Rica. I can honestly see why they'd never live anywhere else. Once back at the resort, Crocodile Bay, we finished off our stay being treated like royalty while sitting at the poolside. Yes, I will admit this is a life.
Well, that's it for our show today, but don't be disappointed because we'll be going on another adventure real soon. At this time, I'd like to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank the crew of Animals Everywhere. Till next time, there might be an animal that's your favorite.
If you have any questions or comments about the show, write to Elaine at Animals Everywhere, P.O. Box 584, South Glastonbury, Connecticut 06073, or visit our website animalseverywhere.com, where you can contact Elaine by email.